Ladies and gentlemen, please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Color Guard, retire colors. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Commissioner Rob Santiago of Boston Veteran Services, and it is a true honor for me to be here today in recognizing and honoring one of our American heroes that was born and raised here in West Roxbury, Thomas Kelley. So, I got to tell you, I had a huge responsibility this morning in ensuring that he got here safely. So just also got to make sure he gets home safely on the way home. So before we got started, I wanted to call up here our mayor, Mayor Michelle Wu, to offer some remarks. Mayor Wu? No.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I didn't want to mess up the rank. I want to thank our Secretary of Office of Veterans Affairs, Santiago, for being here as well, and Commissioner Santiago. Please, everyone who has a seat, please take a seat. We're so grateful that you came out to celebrate with us and that we're joined today by such luminaries and such beacons of service to our country, to our city, to our neighborhoods, and role models for this generation. I am very, very grateful for all of our colleagues who are here. I also want to recognize, in addition to those up here, I see City Councilor Kendra Lara is here. Thank you for your leadership. And I'm just going to give a little bit of, I'm going to try to go fast because I know everybody is melting here. I'm so happy you came out, but it is important to give some of the context and just a highlight of the rich details of why Captain Kelley is the example that we need and going to be always up here. He's had a rich career serving our city and country in the United States Navy, and then also serving our veterans for years after. He has always been dedicated to the well-being of those around him. While serving in Vietnam, Captain Kelley led an extraction mission by river, where he put his own craft in the line of fire to ensure his troops' safety. His craft was struck, causing him to sustain head injuries, but thanks to his actions and his swift leadership, he and his men were able to move their boats to safety. And it was only then, once all of his men were safe, that he finally allowed someone to call for his own medical assistance. For his courage, he received the Medal of Honor the very next year. And then, even after retiring from the Navy, Captain Kelley served veterans in various roles with the Department of Defense and the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services. He worked to ensure that all of our veterans found stability and care when returning from service, that they were treated with the respect and dignity that they deserve. And through a collaboration with the Department of Labor, he made sure that our veterans were able to access good jobs and continue providing for themselves and their families. Captain Kelley, seeing all that you've accomplished, seeing how many people have benefited from your service abroad and back home, we are so honored to declare today Captain Thomas G. Kelley Day. I won't read all of the long language explaining exactly why this honor is deserved, but I will just share that at the very end, this was drafted from the feedback from many of the colleagues and veterans and community members as well. And at the end, it says, "To many of us, Captain Kelley has been more than a colleague. He is a model citizen, a mentor, a voice of reason, a source of wisdom, a sympathetic ear to vent to, an inspirational figure, and a pillar of strength for our entire community." So thank you so much, Captain Kelley. I want to recognize General Woody Woodhouse, of course, as well, for everything that he does in our city and beyond. And we also have been joined by colleagues in elected office. Senator Mike Rush, thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. City Councilor Ruth Lujan. State Representative Billy McGregor. So this is one day on that piece of paper, and it is one day that comes up every single year. But we wanted to make sure that we would respect and respond to the desire from the strong request from community that there be some reminder every single day of the year. Who we choose to elevate, who we choose to lift up, and whose stories are forever painted on our buildings and remembered in our monuments across the city. This really matters. It reflects our values and our priorities, our pride as a community, but it also ensures that every young person walking down this street to go to school can be reminded and know that someone else who grew up just like them in West Roxbury turned out to be a hero and turned out to give his whole life to serving others. And we thank you for giving that example. The residents of West Roxbury, your friends and neighbors, Captain, approached the city with the request that we create a mural to honor you and all of your incredible contributions to our community, our city, and our country. And so our many city departments all jumped into action, led by the Commissioner and our Office of Veteran Services, but also our Office of Neighborhood Services, and Dan Hudson, our West Roxbury liaison, is here. Thank you, thank you. Also, our Office of Arts and Culture, whose beautiful work lifts up many stories across the city. And they engaged local artists who's from right around here, in my home neighborhood, Rosendale, but close enough to West Roxbury, local artist Laura DiDonato Wyatt, who made sure that this beautiful mural would be fitting and deserving of what we are lifting up. So thank you for your service, and thank you to everyone for holding and walking in this example with all that we continue to do for the city. Oh, of course. I forgot the most important elected official of all, Lord Mayor of West Roxbury, Richie Gormley.
Thank you, Mayor. So along with Richie, I also wanted to recognize the VFW members that are here in attendance, the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company that are here, the DAV as well, Disabled American Veterans are here. General Rice is also here, just recently retired. Where he's at, there he is. We also have Joe Milano, former civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, and also the owner of the establishment, the Union Oyster House down in so it just goes to show, and also Secretary John Santiago here, that like the mayor had mentioned, just goes to show the impact that Captain Kelley has in our community. And it goes beyond just here in West Roxbury or Boston. It transcends throughout the whole country in what he has done for the country as well. At this time, I would like to have the opportunity to actually read his citation, his Medal of Honor citation. One of the things that I noticed from Captain Kelley was that he didn't know he was going to get the Medal of Honor. He was actually invited to go to the White House to meet with the president a day after his birthday. And that was when he received his Medal of Honor, which was on May 14th of 1970, 2 weeks before I was born, by the way. So here's a citation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty in the afternoon while serving as commander of River Assault Division 152 during combat operations against enemy aggressive forces. Lieutenant Commander, then Lieutenant Kelley, was in charge of a column of 8 river assault craft which were extracting one company of U.S. Army infantry troops on the east bank of the Ong Mong Canal in Kien Hua Province, when one of the armored troop carriers reported a mechanical failure of a loading ramp. At approximately the same time, Viet Cong forces opened fire from the opposite bank of the canal. After issuing orders for the crippled troop carrier to raise its ramp manually and for the remaining boats to form a protective cordon around the disabled craft, Lieutenant Commander Kelley, realizing the extreme danger to his column and its inability to clear the ambush site until the crippled unit was repaired, boldly maneuvered the monitor in which he was embarked to the exposed side of the protective cordon in direct line with the enemy fire, and ordered the monitor to commence firing. Suddenly, an enemy rocket scored a direct hit on the coxswain's flat, the shell penetrating the thick armor plate and the explosion spraying shrapnel in all directions. Sustaining serious head wounds from the blast, which hurled him to the deck of the monitor, Lieutenant Commander Kelley disregarded his severe injuries and attempted to continue directing the boats. Although unable to move from the deck or to speak clearly into a radio, he succeeded in relaying his commands through one of his men until the enemy attack was silenced and the boats were able to move to an area of safety. Lieutenant Commander Kelley's brilliant leadership, bold initiative, and resolute determination served to inspire his men and provide the impetus needed to carry out the mission after he was medically evacuated by helicopter. His extraordinary courage under fire and his selfless devotion to duty sustained and enhanced the finest tradition of the United States Naval Service. The Congressional Medal of Honor was awarded by then President Richard Nixon. Yeah, okay. At this time, I would like to call up to the podium our Secretary of Veteran Services for the state of Massachusetts, Secretary John Santiago.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Wu, distinguished colleagues, electeds, fellow veterans, good morning. And a special good morning to Captain Tom Kelley and his wife, Joan, who I might also add served a distinguished career in the Navy. And just like the old adage says, beside a good man, you'll find a great woman. So thank you for your service, Joan. It is a privilege to be standing here before you, not just as a veteran, but also as the Secretary of Veteran Services for the Commonwealth, a position that Tom Kelley would mold and would honor and serve in for almost 12 years. But long before that, he was Lieutenant Kelley, serving in Vietnam. And although his story is well known, let me just add that it's always a sober moment when a citation of the Medal of Honor is read, be it Tom Kelley's or anyone else's. That's because it's a reminder of the sacrifice, the courage, and sometimes the loss that thousands of soldiers, both past and present, have represented. And no matter how important those battlefield actions may have been, the truth is that it's about the values the recipient exemplifies. And in the case of Tom Kelley, those values were on display one hot summer day in Vietnam over 50 years ago. In fact, it was those values that guided Tom Kelley's life long before that fateful day in 1969. And they were the values that not only defined that moment, but would be demonstrated throughout his career in public service. Because to me, that's what underwrites each Medal of Honor. That perseverance, that resilience, and that sacrifice. And what's even more remarkable and too often overlooked is how Tom Kelley continued to exemplify those values long after that fateful day. You see, after all those days spent in recovery, those many nights lying on hospital gurneys, the operations, the wounds, the trauma, Tom Kelley never gave up on his commitment to serve his country. He never gave up on his commitment to serve our military and our veterans. I had the pleasure of getting lunch with both Tom and Joan earlier this year, and he told me about that battle. Not the one where he won the Medal of Honor for, but rather the battle to still serve in the Navy. After he was told that he was no longer medically fit for active duty, and how with some tenacity, a lot of grit, and some luck, he was once again able to lead sailors, becoming Captain Tom Kelley and retiring after 30 years in service. During that lunch, I also learned about Tom and Joan's book. They wrote a book. It's titled The Siren's Call and Second Chances. The book is so much more than their personal story. It's fundamentally about embodying perseverance and resilience throughout one's life. Whether it's from his early days, just a few blocks from here on Meredith Street, to his time at BC High, to his naval career, and even on that fateful day in 1969 when he would live to hear the words "fire suppressed skipper," those experiences gave shape to and exemplify his perseverance, his resilience, and his sacrifice that we honor today. After his time in the Navy, Tom Kelley could have chosen a more relaxing retirement. But true to his character, he continued to serve and would go on to become the Secretary of Veteran Services for over 12 years, serving 4 governors. Thanks to his vision, the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services would go on to lead the country by honorably serving those who served us. Under his leadership, Veterans Services were expanded, the SAFE team was created to address suicide among our veteran community, and with the support of people like Joan, the Women's Veteran Network was founded. Yesterday, I asked some of my staff who worked under Secretary Kelley to give me one word that best encapsulates him. He's laughing here. They got back to me almost immediately. Their responses: generous, committed, hero. I think it's safe to say that his staff appreciated him as much as his sailors did. I want to end with a quote from Tom and Joan's book. They wrote, quote, "Teamwork is more important in the Navy than any other service because of how dependent one is on the ship's smooth functioning, which is maintained by each person lifting his or her load in concert with the others." As I enter my 7th month in this new position as a cabinet-level secretariat, I'm often reminded that teamwork is a cornerstone upon which success is built, especially when it comes to serving our veterans. Tom's belief in teamwork, underwritten by that perseverance, that resilience, and that sacrifice, is what his legacy is all about today. And this mural will help carry on that message long past any of us are here. So on behalf of Governor Healy, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, and all the staff at the Executive Veterans Services Office, we thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Santiago. It's also worth noting that Joan herself served her country in the reserves, so she also was a team member in the United States Navy as well. So thank you for your service, Joan, to our country. And as a retired Navy sailor myself, thank you, Tom and Joan, for leading the way for us sailors that came after you. So thank you very much. Another person that I would like to recognize who's here is David Hinka from the VA Boston Healthcare System. Thank you very much, David, for coming. He's also do a lot of great work in our community as well. At this time, without any further ado, as they say, I would like to call the honoree up himself, Medal of Honor recipient, Thomas G. Kelley.
Congratulations, Tom. Nice,
hey, Mike, good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, after all those words, just don't know what to say. Mayor, thanks for being here, and thanks for those really, really gracious words. Joan and I were over here the other day visiting my old stomping ground, and we decided to stick our head in the joint next door. Never been there before. So we parked over there, and I saw the mural first time. Really honored, and had a great meal here. So I got a favor for you, Mayor Wu. Please write a letter to Mayor Ballantyne over there in Somerville and asked that she do the same thing so I don't have to drive all the way over here. But yeah, I grew up here, over here on Meredith Street, just a few blocks away. Had a great privileged childhood. My dad was a school teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she worked part-time. There used to be a card shop up at the corner here. That takes the place of a flyover. Used to be a card shop up there, Miss Scarry's, and there's also a lending library, so my mom worked up there as well. When I was here in West Roxbury, there were only two pubs. There's one down in the center in LaGrange, I can't remember the name of it, and there's one right behind me. I think it was just called the West Roxbury Cafe. Across the street, I think right over there, I worked in a fruit and vegetable store run by Richard Morris and Sons. And at Christmas time, I sold Christmas trees in that parking lot right next door. It was just a grassy area at that time. Mike's Deli was right over here, Mike Vagoni. Mike went to Randall G. Morris School with me, and for a real treat, he'd bring me to my dad's, his dad's deli for lunch, where I had Italian food for the first time in my life. Provolone and all that good stuff. On my street where I lived, there were three teachers right in a row. My dad, Mr. Butler next door, who taught at Boston Latin School, and he had twin boys who became priests in the Archdiocese of Boston. And Mrs. Riley, two doors down, her son Bobby was my pal. We used to hang around Billings Field. They used to flood it every winter, and we'd learn how to skate over there. Occasionally walk up to Turtle Pond, and skate over there. Tom Hines knows that. And then I went to BC High, and I went to BC High with Mayor Gormley's older brother, Bill. Billy became a colonel in the National Guard and died very prematurely about 10 years ago, but he and I and our families go back a long, long way. You know, it's a great honor here, and I really feel very humbled. But I would think of other people here in West Roxbury whom I knew growing up who are probably at least, if not more, worthy of this particular honor. And I'm specifically mentioning Michael Donlan, who happens to be here. Mike and I grew up together. His dad was a state rep. But Michael and I went to Holy Cross together, and he became a linchpin in the Good Friday Accords, which brought peace to Northern Ireland. He didn't get all the credit for it, but he was a mainstay in that. So, Mike, you belong up there. And also out there is Tom Hines. Tom was a year behind me at the Randall G. Morris and at BC High, but Tom developed half the city of Boston, so he's worthy of a mural of his own, I think. And right around the corner from me, growing up on Clement Avenue, was a couple of brothers, Kenny and Al Hughes. They both became priests also. Kenny, a Jesuit, I believe, and Al became a diocesan priest and ended up being the cardinal down in New Orleans. So he's another, of the kids we used to hang around with, 3 or 4 of them did really, really well. And one other thing I did growing up, I was an altar boy at St. Teresa's up the street here. And on Sundays, the priest, Father Redding, used to go to the VA up in West Roxbury on the VFW Parkway to say Mass, and he dragged me along to serve Mass with him. And that was when I was 12 years old, and we had these old veterans in the crowd going to Mass, and they'd come up to me after Mass and say, "Hey, kid, you want a butt?" And they had these little 4-packs of Chesterfields, And a 12-year-old kid, of course I wanted a butt. And I filled my pockets with them, and I started smoking at 12 years old. And I thank the VA for that. Mr. Hankey, are you still here? Yeah. But I quit. I quit in 1992. Anyway, the city of Boston has been terrific to me and to my fellow Medal of Honor recipients. We've had 4 Medal of Honor conventions here in Boston. And Mayor, I'd like to highlight the fact that your fire department, your police department, your EMS, your transportation people, your secretaries, your commissioners, Rob Santiago and his predecessors, they've just rolled out the red carpet, and people always want to come back to Boston. Yeah. And so I think I've said enough. I just want to recognize my grandfather over here. Woody Woodhouse. He's always been an example to me, a shining example, and he should be for all of us. And too bad you're not from West Roxbury, Woody, or you be up here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, speaking of the real Roxbury, my great grandparents my great grandfather came over here in 1842 from Limerick, Ireland, and lived in Roxbury, was a laborer, and went in 1861 or 1862, went off to fight in the Union Army and was captured down at Weldon Railroad in North Carolina and starved to death in a prison in Salisbury, North Carolina. And his family and the Gormley family go back. They were big pals in Roxbury during those days. So again, Mayor Wu and everybody involved, thank you so much. It's a great honor for me, and I'm very, very humbled. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Captain, while West Roxbury and Boston are going to continue claiming full credit for your upbringing and heroism, not Somerville, they had nothing to do with it. We will send you home with just a small memento, so you'll always have this in the house too.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Wow. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, everyone, so much for being here, and especially in the heat. I want to thank Eddie Byrne and the Boston Ale House for all their support and for hosting this reception afterwards. So everyone is invited inside to the cool AC and to enjoy some refreshments.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming out today. While it is a little warm, it's been a beautiful day for this dedication for Captain Kelley, and a little shout out from Mission Hill and Woody Woodhouse.